Rescued. When Sarah saw that chimney pot, she thought she had never seen such a lovely sight before. "A chimney means a house," she said, "and a house means help." "And it means a good road," said Julian. "And somewhere to get your feet dry," said Pat. Without another word they made for the chimney. As they climbed up the hill, they could see more and more of the building the chimney belonged to. The roof, then the walls, then the door. "I wonder where it is," said Sarah. "It hasn't got many windows," said Pat. "And what a big door!" "Oh, no," shouted Sarah. "It's only a barn full of hay. It's not a house at all." "I've seen that barn somewhere before," said Pat. As they came round the corner of the barn, they saw the farm just one small field away from them. "Well, I'll be blessed," said Pat. "We're at Thompson Ground. What a lovely surprise." There was Dorothy Thompson feeding the hens. She gave a shout when she saw them and waved both her arms. She was just as surprised as they were. "Well, whatever are you doing, popping up from among those old mine heaps?" she said, "and looking fit to drop. You've never walked all that way. Now you come right in and sit down and get those wet boots off, and I'll put the kettle on for a nice cup of tea." They were so tired, and Dorothy Thompson talked so fast that none of them could get a word in. But they were only too glad to follow her into that cosy kitchen and do as she said. They hung their socks to dry by the fire and sat round with their mugs of tea, twiddling their bare toes by the warm fire. Towser came in and licked their feet, making them laugh and scream because his rough tongue was so tickly. They told Dorothy about their adventures, and Julian gave her his fossil to put with the ornament on her mantelpiece. "Your dad brings me letters," said Dorothy Thompson, "but you've brought me something different today. In a way, it's like a letter from a long time ago, but I don't know if I can read it." "I can," said Alf, coming in with the biscuits. "It looks like a scorpion to me. I've got a book with a fella like that in it. See, there's its long tail with the sting, and its pair of claws. And I'll show you a living one if you like." Julian put on his shoes and followed Alf out into the yard. Alf lifted a piece of bark on a tree, and a little creature ran to hide. It looked like a tiny scorpion. "It's a spider, really," said Alf. "It has claws like Mrs. Pottage's crab," said Julian. "And talking about scorpions, there's another thing I'll wager they haven't told you at school," said Alf. "Look at these blue flowers growing along by the fence." "I know," said Julian. "They're forget-me-nots." "And some folks call them scorpion grass," said Alf, "because the flowers look like a scorpion's tail." "But they don't sting," said Julian. "No, they don't," said Alf, laughing. "We'd better go and see if they've eaten all the biscuits." When Pat said, "We were hoping to get to the top of Greendale Hill," Dorothy said, "You're not stirring until you've had some dinner." And she went at once to put some extra potatoes into roast, so there was no more to be said. They had a lovely dinner with Cumberland sausages and fried tomatoes, as well as the crispy roast potatoes and treacle sponge to follow. "Delicious," they all said. "That should keep us going to the top of Greendale Hill," said Pat. "Oh, that hill," said Sarah. "He won't be satisfied till he gets to the top." "It's a long way for Julian's legs," said Alf. "It's a long way for my legs," said Sarah. "I'll tell you what," said Alf. "I'll take you as far as Intake Farm in the Land Rover. Then you can get back on the proper path and it won't be too far." George Lancaster was surprised to see them all when they arrived at Intake Farm. He thought he'd muddled the days up. "I thought it was Sunday," he said. "It is Sunday," said Pat. "Well, there can't be any post then," said George. "We've not come with the post," said Sarah. "We're out for a hike." "To the top of Greendale Hill," said Pat. "We hope," said Julian. "But you came in Alf's Land Rover," said George. "I thought you had to walk when you were hiking." "Well, you do," said Pat. And Pat told them the story of their walk so far. "But there's nothing to see up there," said George. "Only my sheep. And there's some in the field behind the house if you want to see them." "We want to see the view," said Pat. "Oh," said George. "I see it every day." They waved goodbye and went on their way. It was a hard climb to the top. "It's a good thing Alf gave us that lift," said Sarah. The sun came out, and they sat by the big pile of stones at the top and drank the tea from their flasks. They could see all of Greendale and Pencaster, and in the far distance the glittering of the sea. "I can see the Isle of Man," said Pat. "Look, just there." "It's a cloud," said Sarah. "I can see Blackpool Tower," said Julian, and they screwed up their eyes to see it. "Isn't it grand?" said Pat, and they all agreed that it was. "It's just like being on top of the world," said Julian.